I really liked my father's journey. You know, I always say the strength of a documentary rises and falls with the subject matter, and this was really good subject matter because it took me to a place I've never been before, which is like China. And me, I've always wanted. Ever since I seen Kung Fu Panda and Ip Man, I've wanted to go to China. You know what I'm saying? And this film kind of took me to China in a way, if that makes sense. Like this documentary, and it showed me about a part of China and Chinese culture that I didn't know about, that I had never even heard of, never even crossed my mind before. So I think that is what I really like about this film, like the idea of like a documentary shines when it can show you something that and can make you think and like show you something that you've never seen before. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I really liked about this, and I think y'all really took the audience on it to China, to a new place, and taught us something new. And I think that's very effective documentary filmmaking. So good
This
job.
is a beautiful film. It speaks about the unfortunate and yet another cultural cleansing of this town, the Naxi Dongba people, and how some of them were able to preserve their beautiful pictograms that are a specific language, and they were super spread out. They were used for everything, especially for cultural or artistic expression. So it is very nostalgic. It is quite humble as well. There's some very deep and emotional pieces there. The script and the dialogues are always very touching, and it's a lot of vulnerability in it, I think. They take also some of their colorful rituals. Some of them are quite intense as well, and they speak about the government taking over their some of their land, and just because it's still inhabited, the some of those lands become ghost towns. It is fantastic to hear about this Mr. She, which is a published author, and all the family and traditional values paired with music all the way. It is also quite impressive to see the landscapes. It is a frequent or constant rainfall that gives a magic touch to every scene. And then their visit to the cemetery was quite moving, and they have a beautiful closing scene as well as the closing music, and their end credits. It's just a magnificent piece. Well
Was
job
a
done.
really informative and a really sentimental documentary about this woman's father, Mr. He, and his journey across rural China and talking about his culture and his history and this desire to um, preserve it. I think it was a really beautiful tribute by the director to her father, and all the work that he's put in to keep their their culture and their history alive. Um, there's so many nuances in Chinese culture that aren't talked about large scale because there are so many different rural villages and different histories and um, kind of dying cultures because of urbanization and many different factors, and that's kind of seen in this documentary of wanting to hold on to that history and the importance of holding on to that history and culture and wanting to spread that. And this documentary is a beautiful way of doing that. I think it's incredibly touching that the director would go to these lengths to, give a glimpse give a glimpse of her family's history and tradition and the the importance of it all and having it documented so it doesn't die out like her father is worried about. Just incredibly informative, incredibly sentimental, and visually very beautiful. Just a very, very well
And I
done
applaud
documentary.
Xiaodan for going on this journey back to her native land. And I really think that it's something that everyone should do at least once. Especially because by the end you could see how hearing her father's story and visiting an important part of her history moved her to tears. This film takes place in a remote town in Li Jiang. I've always been fascinated by rural Chinese culture, how ancient all the architecture is, how close everyone in the village is to each other. Uh, you can hear the pain in Mr. He's voice when he talks about the ghost towns and how he doesn't want his village to turn out the same way. My favorite part was seeing the elder prayer group because that shows how long they've all been working to preserve their culture and how close it's brought them all. One thing the Naxi seem to preserve above all else, though, is their language because that's what defines them, and their dialect is a big part of the pictograms that they keep showing. And you can definitely detect the sense of pride in Mr. He's voice when he says that their pictograms are the only ones still in use today. And you can also see how important language is when Xiao Dan asks him if he's disappointed that she can't speak Naxi. But as someone who's written lots of literature about his own people, Mr. He's legacy was he wanted to leave a legacy in which his daughter could pass on his knowledge to others, and I think he definitely accomplished that with this documentary.
I really, really enjoyed this. I think that it's such a beautiful tribute in general, not only just to her father, but to his culture, and going a step further than that, not just about his culture particularly, but about like these really incredible, really rich cultures that are like minority cultures that have, thousands of people that belong to them and are still very present in the world, but they're just so small when you compare them globally. And so I think that being able to record all of this, document how much time he spent learning, and not just being a part of it, but like really learning from all of these people, learning from the different teachers, recording different ceremonies, the perspective that he was able to share, just the casual conversations that he had with other community members that were obviously a big part of that culture and that community, with the musicians and everything else, and being able to not just document that for like future generations and like her own family to be able to share with the world this culture, but also just as a tribute to her father and what he has spent his time learning, and that preserving this was so important to him, and learning all about this culture, learning about his own culture and all of that, and like really trying to document things. I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was also really well put together for a documentary. It had a lot of information. You had a great kind of intro into it, which was really personable, and then it went into more detail, and you just got to see a lot of different facets of it throughout the entire thing, which I thought was really nice. And it wasn't just him talking, it was him interacting and going to museums, and there were some questions between him and his daughter, and like some interview style questions, and you just learned a whole lot. And so I thought overall it was really, really great.
What a beautiful film, and what a beautiful tribute to this woman's father that she created. It's just gorgeous. It's slow and elegant, slow in a good way, like not slow in like an elegant way. there's just so much here. I had to take notes because it was just a lot. It's a lot to digest. This person is her father is so smart, so smart. I can't get over quoting philosophers and quoting university professors and just incredible intellect. Published poet, published author with his novels, just and then also being able to paint the pictograms, know the Naxi language, delve into the choreography, pictograms, and understand the origins and the storytelling of that choreography. Just remarkable. I loved how this was shot. It's shot so beautifully. It's done so well. Even like the silent segments, like walking through the forest or the snow-covered mountains. The Foley is beautiful. The sounds that she was able to capture, just gorgeous. And then when there was music, like when there were just mountains and then drumming, oh, I loved that moment. And then the choreography moment where the men are dancing and connecting to the storytelling. The music was great there too. And then that scene where he gifted her the painting and she was crying because she thought that he would be disappointed in her for not knowing the language. I almost lost it. I just thought that was so beautifully done, so emotional. And just his sense of philosophy, his sense of life, and it's just, I mean, I learned so much, the idea of wanting to be a Buddha, not having time for the devil and wanting to be a Buddha was incredible. And the discussions about all of his influences that influenced his art, that influenced his writing. And then, of course, that beautiful final cemetery visit. So gorgeously shot. Such a beautiful tribute to all of their ancestors. And then that final shot of them walking in the rain. It's just so stunning. Anyway, I could go on forever. I've gone on for 3 minutes. I have to stop. It's a really beautiful movie, and I really enjoyed it. Congratulations, and congratulations to the government of Canada for funding you. They did a great thing, and congratulations. It's a beautiful tribute to your dad.